Hello everybody, my name is Christian Horkler, and for my final exam project in AP Environmental Science, I'll be doing my paper slide on white nose syndrome. Alright, let's get to it. First off, what is white nose syndrome? Some of you may have previous knowledge about white nose syndrome, and some of you may just think white nose syndrome is a hoax invented by China. Well, I'm here today to inform all of you and give you a brief background and overview of what white nose syndrome is, what its impact is, and how we can all come together and combat it. And I'll be answering questions as such as who does it harm, and is it good or bad, etc. Alright. First off, its scientific name is Pseudogymnoascus destructans, and this is the scientific name for the fungus itself that causes white nose syndrome. Now, a brief overview. White nose syndrome is a disease that targets bats, and it's named for its distinctive fungal growth on its muzzle and wings, all over its mouth, area of its mouth, and on its wings. And currently, to date, it is responsible for at least 5.7 million deaths. And today, currently 33 states are infected in the United States. Over half of the United States is combating white nose syndrome. And just to put things into perspective, in World War II, the Nazi Germany killed about 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. That number of bats that have been infected by WNS have already died, and the number gets bigger by the day. That is a scary fact to know, and shows truly how devastating white nose syndrome is and can be. Alright, to date, 15 species of bats have been infected by white nose syndrome. Some effects of white nose syndrome. Bats are part of the predator-prey relationships. Bats feed on insects, and since white nose syndrome has been cutting down bat populations, that means more insects live, and accordingly, 2.4 million pounds of insects remain alive each year due to white nose syndrome. And this trickles down to the effect of over $3 billion in damages to farmers occur as a result, because the bat does not eat the insect, therefore the insect can go and eat the crops, which leads to little to no crops for the farmer to sell, which results in monetary hardships and damages. And this is one of the leading factors that damage the farming industry to this day. Next, what is white nose syndrome's impact on the environment? Well, it decreases the species numbers of bats and the population number of bats, like stated earlier, and some species have declined over 90%. Yes, 90% of a species' populations of bats up to have declined as a result of white nose syndrome. That is true. That's truly chilling feature right there. As we've gone from plentiful bats to almost none in a short amount of time. White nose syndrome was discovered in 2006, and so just 11 years later, over 15 species have been infected, and in some of those species, 90% of its population have been decreased. That is truly scary. Now, there have been attempts to combat white nose syndrome. It has been found that white nose syndrome is set up similarly to smallpox, which we were able to eliminate in 1979. And a brief background on smallpox. Smallpox is a fast-growing virus that was spread to America as results of colonization. And smallpox itself has become an extremely deadly virus, and how we were able to combat, treat, and eventually eradicate smallpox was that we were able to give a sample of the virus itself to a healthy human being, which allowed the human's immune system to build up antibodies which would allow it to combat the smallpox. And the same theory is being used on white nose syndrome, as tests have included giving the actual white nose syndrome to healthy bats, allowing them to build immunity. And scientists are hoping that what happened with smallpox can also happen here with white nose syndrome. Now, we're going to bring this back to my home state of Virginia. We're going to focus here. And species such as our native little brown bat have dropped considerably, with number losses in their populations up to 90%. The little brown bat is one of the species that I listed earlier that are currently facing drastic number reductions. And we can follow the guidelines that the state has provided in order to reduce WNS. The state of Virginia, on its website, has released guidelines on how to combat and how to help decrease the spread of WNS. And some things include avoiding recreational cave use and abiding by the closure notices of certain caves. And the reason being for the closure of the caves is because the bat's main habitat is caves. And when humans go in and disturb, they do not have a safe shelter environment, which will lead them to being susceptible to catching WNS. So what can we do? Some of you may be sitting here right now thinking, what can I do to help the bats and combat white nose syndrome? Well, like stated previously, we can avoid using caves for recreational use. As much fun it is to take a trip spelunking and all that, we have to respect the bats' natural habitat and what they're currently going through. And upholding this can lead to a bigger bat presence that is sheltered to help the regrowth process. And remember, every small thing counts. It may seem like your contribution is small, but if we all give in a small contribution, our own little pledge to help the bats, we can go a long way and we can really make this regrowth process happen, make it plausible. So now, lasting impact. What is the lasting impact that white nose syndrome and our lasting impact can be? Well, while the current situation in 2017 is bleak, all hope is still not lost, as bad as it may be. We may have up to 90% population losses, but still, the hope of regrowth is still present. By following the guidelines and methods to help, we'll be able to increase the chances of population regrowth. Now, at this point, nothing is guaranteed. Like I said, when you've lost about 90% of your population, the chances of you regaining at least a good portion are slim. But remember, nothing except for impossible is impossible. And if we all team up and make a stand, we can all make a difference. But remember, we can only do this together. Rome wasn't built by a single person. The United States War of Independence was not won by just one man. George Washington did not win the entire thing. It was a team effort. Every major conflict in world history has been a team effort. Both world wars, the fight against cancer, everything that you can think of has all been a team effort. And the same goes for white nose syndrome. If we all team up, if we all stand unified, no matter what, and we all strive to help combat white nose syndrome, we can leave our lasting impact. We can be the generation that helps bring about the regrowth of the bat populations, and we can be the generation to end white nose syndrome once and for all. But we can only do this if we do this together. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'd like to give a special thank you to Mr. Colley, my AP Environmental Science teacher. Thank you for being such a great teacher and the man you are, and I've had a great time this year in your APES class. It was a great science class to take, and any kids out there that are watching this that are thinking about what science class to take, I highly recommend taking AP Environmental Science. It was a really great course, and I was able to learn more about the environment and the nasty effects that we aren't aware of as a general population. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.